Great to meet you, Nick. This is the first time we're talking together. Appreciate you being here on the Robert Trusardi podcast. So you and I are actually both developers of games on the Wax blockchain. So we're kind of competitors under a certain, under a certain viewpoint. But we have very different games, and I think our games are probably, are for different audiences. But I'm excited to have you on the show. You said a lot of the community knows you as Lykos, but your real name is Nick.
Yep.
And it's been really great to watch your guys' progress because there's been so many games on Wax that have come and gone. Most of them have gone. And there have been very few that have actually like stayed the course. And so one of the things that we've noticed is, people people seem to stay with your game. We see a lot of other people come into these, these NFT games, and then they're looking to like flip something, and then once they can't flip something, usually the project either runs out of money to continue operating, so they disappear, or they kind of like hobble along because they really don't have enough funds to really do anything new, or they were just scams to be, scams in the first place. Basically anonymous teams who, you don't know who they are. They pop up and then they're like, oh, we'll make a game, and then they sell some assets, and there's theory that there's a I call them the rug pull mill, that basically they keep pumping out new games and then disappear because they're anonymous every time. So it's like, are they the same developers? I don't know. It's like, what's the proof? It's like I don't have time to go hunt down the proof, but so seeing your game as a game that's a legitimate game that has developers who are public facing, you're here, you're working with your community day to day and building up the game. So it's been good to see your game there alongside us. And I think I was just looking at your secondary market cap, as I know you guys released during the massive bull run of 2000 and gosh, what year was it? 2021. At the end of 2021, there's this massive bull run on NFTs, and it was like 10 times the volume or more of what it is now. But you guys released during that segment. I noticed you guys have $37 million in secondary sales, which is a lot. I said it very fast, 37 million, right? But it's quite a lot. And so, in terms of a lot of other NFT games, you've been extremely successful. And a lot of our, community and other players, do mention you from time to time. And so we can see that there's still a lot of interest and community around the Farming Tales game. So I appreciate you being, another developer in the space with us who is committed to it, because we don't see a lot of that. We don't see a lot of people who are here committed to the players.
Yes, thank you. First of all, nice to be here with you. We have been very, very lucky when we launched Farming Tales, since, as you said, we were in a strong bull market. We managed to earn lots of funds from our first two sales. And now, after more than 1 year, we are still using that money to keep developing the game. I think I can understand other projects, legit projects that are now closing, maybe. It's not easy to keep developing during this bear market. If you decide to launch a game now, or if you launched your game maybe in the last 6, 7, 10 months, it's not easy. Farming Tales has been a lucky project, and we want to use all the funds users gave to us to keep the developing and to create something really, really good. I think with the last release, we are really one of the first working metaverse, at least on Wax. We have a multiplayer metaverse where people can, for now, see their friends, but they will be able to interact with friends soon. Yes, it's good, and we want to keep this work on.
And with Farming Tales, it's one of the few games that are actually it's actually fully 3D. So it's like a real game, quote unquote. Like Castles is basically, browser based. It's kind of a clicker, you click things, it does things, you get assets, and then you trade your assets and stuff. But inside of Farming Tales, it's actually like fully 3D. You get to run around and, interact with the world. And like you said, see other players. And so, and it's all based inside the browser, but it is like an app, like a Unity was a Unity extension. So you can go in, load into the game world from the browser, and then you get to run around inside the 3D world and interact with people. And that's also really special. You don't see a lot of that. And when I first saw some of those early versions of Unity in the browser, they didn't work really well with Wax. So one of the reasons we stayed away from it too was because we were like, I kind of don't know what the the viability is of having a 3D app. So let's just focus on like a 2D interactive game. But I was playing Farming Tales the other day. I was loaded in there. I didn't have any problems, any errors or anything like that. So do you guys find that's to your advantage, having this actual 3D real game that is a live blockchain game?
Yes, we, at least for the first 6 months, we regretted each day the decision to be a 3D game on the blockchain, since probably Unity was not ready to interact with the blockchain in a full way. And I have to say that after 1 year of developing, we managed to find lots of ways to improve this interaction between Unity and the blockchain, and I'm now pretty satisfied about the way we found. Yes, we have still problems, that's clear, of course. Sometimes Unity cannot talk with the blockchain and we can't retrieve data from the blockchain. Sometimes Unity cannot properly talk with the nodes, but we are finding the right way for everything. We are mixing Unity with WebGL, with JavaScript, with the blockchain. I'm pretty satisfied, as I said. The last task we managed to do is a way to, basically, until now, when we push a new update, users had to manually clear their cache on the browser. And now we found a way to force the purge of the cache on our side. So it's another problem resolved. We are on the right track.
Yeah, it's weird being like an early adopter in this stage, right? Like you want to accomplish, like let's say X, but in order to accomplish X and have it look the way that X looks like, you have to do like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all these other things that come before it in order to kind of get there. And we had that experience too, where, we first started, things were kind of, to use a word that's janky, it's like kind of, hard. Things weren't working the way quite so smooth. And then over time, we kind of worked on things and we're like, oh, we could actually do these other things to help make the experience better and smoother so people are using less resources. So we kind of know what that's like. It's new technology. It's not like, especially with Wax, no one has like a book that says how to make a Wax game, or how to make a blockchain game. There really aren't any books like that right now, but who knows, maybe I'll write one, but there isn't. And so, so the good thing is that you're ahead of the curve, right? You're out in front of everybody else. The bad thing is you got to be the pioneer and create all these technologies. But it seems like you guys are taking this incredibly well. That you're making, you're consistently working to make it work. You haven't given up. You've just like stayed the course and continue developing the game, and you've just done the work to make sure that players can continually use your game in the best and have the best experience that they can.
Yes, and in the end, I think that I said this in our Discord a couple of days ago, but I really think that build a good game and keep developing it is still more profitable than take some money and running away. Okay, we had a really strong bull market 1 year ago. Lots of projects popped out and then disappeared. But I'm still pretty confident that in the next cycle, we will have better products, better games, better teams. And it's just a matter of time, and we need to wait until the next cycle.
Yeah. So are you guys planning for the next cycle, or do you guys already have like a plan for what that looks like when the next cycle comes?
Yeah, I'm also a miner in my life, and we it's just my opinion, of course. I'm not expecting the next cycle so close. It's not something that I expect for the next 6-7 months, maybe.
So you mean crypto mining, right? You're not like, you don't got like a pickaxe.
No,
you're not. That's right. You got computers and they're running blockchains.
No, crypto miner. And so yes, we need to wait some month, but I'm really positive about the next cycle. And web3, NFT gaming could really be a game changer for the future. When I have some time, I used to be a gamer also for standard games like Warzone or other games like that. And I can really see the huge potential of Web3, decentralization, and everything if applied also to good games, to big games like Warzone. And it's something we all as developers should talk about for the future.
Yeah, I think people should be open-minded about it, because when I first got here, I thought I had a good idea of how things would work. And then COVID hit, and then, everybody was at home and they had to spend money on something. The crypto market went on a bull run, and things went way differently than I thought they would go. Like the point that we're at right now, I thought we wouldn't be here for like another 5 years or so. To the point where people actually talking about NFT games, playing these games. I thought this is going to be a adoption cycle that is going to be a very long time. It's going to take 5 years or so. But because of COVID, it came faster because people were at home, they didn't have things to do, and it just had this domino effect, with the economy and all this other stuff, and crypto being on a big bull run. So a lot of the early adopters of crypto became early adopters of NFTs and NFT games, and it actually kind of got us here faster in a way. And so I actually never intended to actually build this kind of game first, but we fell into it. How do you see the big games adopting these? Because even I'm not so sure. Like, I know what works for us at our level, at our, a fairly small game, but I don't know what works for a massive company like Blockbuster. Blockbuster games, like you said, Warzone. I mean, sure, you could give skins to people, but once you do that, well, then, it becomes basically harder to sell skins because the players can now trade skins. So, I think that kind of future is where we're going, but you need a business model that basically can still sustain itself, under whatever adjustments you make. So my big theory has always been that a lot of gaming companies are going to be forced into Web3 because their competitors are, basically making more money than them because they're allowing more freedom of their assets. But I think that might not actually be for everybody. I think there's probably going to be plenty of games that basically continue doing what they're doing right now. The Overwatch, just selling loot boxes and things like that. I think there's going to be a lot of games continue doing what they're doing. But what are your thoughts? What do you think, big games will do to adjust to this whole Web3 space?
No, as you said, I think the focus for this game should be on loot boxes and skins or stuffs like that, because we are all used to have NFTs in our games that produce something. They produce some token, they produce other NFTs. And this is true also in Farming Tales. Farming Tales is not different from that. But this kind of gaming, let's say gaming, it's, from my point of view, highly inflative. So if you have an NFT able to generate something, you have inflation. For sure, that's inevitable. For big games, but I think should be the focus also for little games in the next cycle. NFTs shouldn't represent something inflative. So you could have your skin, your loot boxes in NFTs, and you should be able to trade them as you want. For example, some year ago, I was used to play PlayerUnknown's Battleground. And at the end of each match, you were able to get some loot boxes with some skin, some clothes, some weapons or other stuff like that. And yes, you were able to trade these stuffs with other players, but inside the Steam marketplace. So if you earn $10 from a skin, you can just use that money into the Steam platform. That's not right from my point of view. So I think the huge potential of the blockchain is that if you earn something from Farming Tales, from a skin, for example, you can sell that skin if you are tired to play the game, and you are free to use that money as you want. It's your money. It's up to you how to use it. So you can just invest in another game. You can just cash out, change coin. It's yours. And it really doesn't matter if big companies decide to use Wax, Cosmos, Solana, or if they want to create their own blockchain. I think the point is that using blockchains, people can be the real owners of these assets. That's the point for the future.
So let's go back into what inspired you to be on this journey, because you are the actual creator of Farming Tales, right?
Yeah.
So you were someone before Farming Tales, and then at some point you had this idea for Farming Tales and to get into it. So who were you before Farming Tales? How did this start?
I was a real farmer, and I'm not joking. I am first of all a biologist and a crypto and developing passionate. I do it on my own outside from the university. And when I finished the university, I decided to move with my girlfriend in the countryside. We opened our technologic farm, and we are really farmers taking care mainly about chickens and goats and dogs. We have Nordic dogs. And we always tried to make our farm as more technological we can. And since I was a crypto passionate, at some point we decided to try to move the farm into the blockchain. And it works, of course. But the first idea behind the Farming Tales was to create something, not necessarily a game, but something that could bring real agricultural stuffs into the blockchain. And we start bringing honey and saffron on the blockchain, so people were able to buy NFTs, blending them to earn real honey and real saffron from the farm. And since this had a big success, we decided also to create a game. And to be totally honest, since the game has been a huge success, probably in the last year, we focused a bit too much on the game, but we are now trying to get back on our feet and to integrate again real products into the game. So at some point, and it's not so far, people inside the metaverse will be able to trade also real products from real farms.
What was the name of the other project, the one before Farming Tales? What was the name of that one?
No, it was always Farming Tales.
Oh, it was always Farming Tales.
Yes, we started as a fungible farm, but we had some problem with people that did not see the blockchain as we do. So they were not really interested in building something health and sustainable, and we decided as team to leave that old project to create something better. and we create Farming Tales. That's our story, basically.
Okay, well, you said it was always Farming Tales, but it sounds like there were two different projects. There was one originally for the...
No, we have both the part into Farming Tales. We want really to integrate both this part into the same games. We worked for that for the last 8 months, I guess. It's not easy.
Okay.
We have lots of problem, mainly on legal side, for example, and also because we send, for example, honey in Australia, in Canada, and it's not that easy to ship organic stuffs around the world. There are lots of rules. It's really a mess.
So why do it then? So I mean, if it's a mess and it's hard to do it, why do it?
Because it's cool. No. Because in some way, I really think that NFTs should represent something real. And in our case, NFTs are both linked to game, but also to real honey, real saffron, real hemp, anything. And it's not super sustainable right now. I mean, I think it's not super ethical to ship honey from here to Canada, for example. But it's just the first step of our project. We are planning to have producers around the world. So if you want Farming Tales honey from Canada and you are in Canada, we should be able to provide this honey directly from Canada. And that's a bit more ethical than what we are doing now.
Mm-hmm. So why? So why should, these digital assets also be able to be real? What's the philosophy?
The NFT is linked to the real products, you mean? I don't know. People, especially before the bull market, all the people were talking about NFTs as something representing a real ownership. But the truth, from my point of view, is that it's a fake ownership. You do not own anything when you have an NFT. And everything started from there. We tried to give something fungible with these NFTs. So if you have the NFTs of Farming Tales representing a beehive, for example, you own something real. You own some real percentage of the honey produced by that beehive. And that's maybe just a small part of the NFTs, because yes, NFTs today are not linked only to real words, but I think it's important for adoption, because people can better understand something fungible, something that they can really touch, more than more than the NFT of the chicken into Farming Tales. And my mom, for example, does not understand why a person should buy the NFT of a virtual hen paying in real money. But she can understand why a person should buy an NFT representing honey, for example.
If it's a real honey that she's owning, or that she can exchange the NFT for the honey.
Yeah. But if it's only in the game, it's a bit harsh, but it's the truth. If it's only into the game, up to now, it's more like a financial product. And it's just a PNG that can create some token in the end. If it can create something real, it has more sense, for my opinion.
And you think for mass adoption, like more people will
Yeah,
see the use of NFTs and Web3 technology.
yeah, I think so. I hope so, since of course should be the goal for every developer in Web3 right now to onboard people.
Hmm. Yeah, I know. I think Gary Vee, he's a big influencer that he believes that as well, that like NFTs, that link to something physical. Like I think he's got some kind of toys, some kind of like Gary Vee toys or something like that. And so he believes that by doing that, that's going to also increase adoption, provide value to people. So I think you're not alone in that vision, of having mass adoption through that. Me personally, I actually uh, um, I don't like having too many physical things. I really don't. Like I like to have like a low management. So I love having 50 castles in virtual reality because then I mean that's a lot of maids I have to get in real life for a real castle. It's only a lot of management. So you look at me like I actually don't own like a lot of things. Whenever someone gives me something physically like for Christmas or my birthday, I'm just like, oh, what am I going to do with this? Like I got to find a place for it. Like so I kind of come from a different angle. I actually really like the digital thing, and to me they feel as long as but that's kind of like the other thing when it comes to Web3 gaming, right, is that uh you know the players who come to our games, if they want an asset to have value, then they are really dependent on us, what we do with the game
Yes.
and, how we inflate the assets. And, so we've been learning kind of tricks and ways to basically, make sure that people have a great experience. They want to stick with the game, that they get rewards that they feel is commensurate for actually holding on to these assets and playing with them. And I think we're getting to a good place with it. We're giving cash rewards, basically like wax tokens as rewards and things. That's worked really well. But when it comes to these games, these people are really it's up to us to make sure that those assets continue to have use case and that the economy basically doesn't burn them. That we don't we don't like take we have these barons, we have this whole schedule releasing them, releasing a certain amount of barons every month, and then people stop buying them. That basically leaves us with a couple of choices. One, we stop selling them, which is what we did, but it wasn't the only choice we had. We could have sold them for less, and we didn't like that. We had another third option we used. We started to bundle them together with other assets, and so we don't really like that option. But there were a couple of months where like we do need a little more money to make sure that we continue development through these couple of months. We'll do some bundles. But those players are all dependent on us and how we inflate those assets. If you have an asset and you're like, oh, this is a really rare asset, it's going to stay rare, and then the developer changes their mind and like, actually we're going to make 2 times more of these, and we're going to suddenly just completely destroy someone's plan. And we've adjusted our game a couple of times too, so it's happened a couple of times where we decided to adjust things because we thought it was for the best of the game. But definitely there are some people who weren't counting on that, right? Like they were counting on something else. But it's just kind of the way it is right now. But at least, if you can say that you have a physical asset, then at least you have a physical asset, right? So I can see an advantage to what you're proposing.
Yes. And it's also a good way to maintain more or less stable prices into your product, since people in Farming Tales are really looking to the honey value on the market in their country, for example, to estimate the value of the Beehive NFT. So it's something useful. I'm still not sure, I'm honest, about how to build an healthy economy for our games, because in the end we are play to earn, and people are expecting to earn something from our games. But if they can earn something, it means that you are generating every day some token, for example. And this means, again, that we have an inflative economy. And it's another point for play to earn. And we are also working on other products right now. And at least for me, the main goal for these products is to create a closed economy able to maintain itself. Because if you, for example, in Farming Tales, that of course it's not a perfect a perfect game. We produce our animal and our garden in Farming Tales produce something every day, and in the long term, this is not so easy to maintain health because if users increase, inflation increase, and when there's another bear market and user fall again, you are in trouble. And I think it's what all the game faced in the last month in the end. So it's not that easy. It's probably the most difficult thing in our game.
What makes it, difficult? Is it that you have to kind of build a system to figure out how to deal with the inflation?
Yeah, I think I have no a good answer right now, and we tried in the past to build some different model of economy for other projects, and seemed to me that people are not ready for that. So before to build a good economy, probably we as dev should teach people how to be safe and how to be good on blockchain and on play to earn. I think it's the first step of this long way for all our games.
You can teach them how to be good and be safe, meaning so they don't get scammed, or how do you mean?
Yes, also, but also how to find good products, because in the end, I'm a dev, but I'm also an investor in other game, in other projects. And I took maybe 5-6 years before to understand how to move on the blockchain and how to move on the play to earn and on these stuff. So in some way, we should educate people to make their own research, to look at white papers, and to invest in good economies, not just in repetitive click and earn. I don't want to to name other projects, but we all on Wax saw in the past month copy-paste gaming, and lots of games that are created just to copy other successful game. And there wasn't a real economy behind these games, but people were not interested in economy. They just thought that if that game had success, even this one will have. And that's the wrong way to start investing in something. And I really feel that it's our responsibility to create something good and to teach them how to interact with this project, with these games.
I mean, you have to figure out your economy first, right, before you can start to tell other people like what's a good game economy to get into. What we've done is we've started to. Well, I think in the beginning we realized that what we would have to do is we'd have to manage the inflation of assets through. Well, one good example is our lands, basically. We had a system where as you create new lands, we were like, well, at some point this can't continue on forever. You just can't keep creating a bunch of lands. So what we did was we created a number, and then we were like, so at like 200,000 farms or 300,000 farms, forget what the first checkpoint was. I think it was 400 actually. At 400 farms minted, so we basically count. As players create new farms because you can create lands. When they got to 400,000 farms, we would then basically augment we basically make it harder to make lands. We'd increase the amount of resources inside the game to create new lands. So we've kind of modified the way we do it a little bit, but what we found is this has actually really helped things be stable over time. It's kind of hard to figure out what stable is, when the crypto market's going down like this, and people thought a castle was worth like $2,400, and then, and now I guess they're worth about 78, but they're almost double what they were a couple of months ago because of the market's been recovering. But we found is it has helped with stability. We've watched a lot of other games, like a lot of their tokens go down, like 80%. And then from that 80%, they go down another 90%. So now it's like, it's down 99%. So we never got down to like 99%, right? We got down to like 90%, and then it's back up like, double from that. And that's actually been a good recovery compared to a lot of our other competitors in this particular space. We've seen a lot of other assets just keep going down and down and down. And I can't necessarily say why. I've seen some games that have developers that seem fairly committed that still can't seem to deal with it. And to me, the process has always been kind of simple. Like, when it comes to inflation of assets, you just have to deal with the inflation. The best way to deal with inflation is to increase the cost of how much it takes to create new assets. Now you have to kind of deal with other new things like, because, 24 becomes 48, and then 48 becomes 96, I think. And eventually you're getting into the millions and then the billions, maybe not today, but eventually down the road. And so we kind of identified that that's happening, but we kind of, we're going to deal with the bigger numbers later in ways that we can. But in the near term, in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, we can continue to use these, this cost doubling thing. So this has helped with a lot of our assets. And I think as our economies continue to deepen, kind of the stronger it's become, because now we have, different aspects. We have lands, we have heroes, we have these wax earning modes that we're creating, and it's kind of creating a nice little foundation for the economy to stand on. So now it's kind of deepened. But I've always thought increasing the costs to create things over time and having some kind of checkpoints has been really useful. Have you guys thought about something like that? Would it not work with, a real NFT kind of thing? Have you guys seen like problems with that kind of possibility?
Yes, we have something similar for our animals and plants into the farms. So price is increasing month by month of 5%, maybe, if I'm not wrong, or something like that. And I think it works. It helps to keep it stable for sure. But I'm still not sure that this is the best way for the future, since, as you said, in 4, 5, 6 years, and we want to be here in 5, 6 years, could be something so higher stop people from entering the game. Not 100% sure that is the right way. The best way is to create a definitive model of the economy since the beginning and to state it from day one and to force people in some way to work around this model. One of the main errors I made as dev in the past month is to try to change the economy following the trend, following players' requests, following the market. And yes, maybe these work for some week, but it's not sustainable in the long term. So we all as devs should learn that all the economy need to be studied before the launch of the game. And if it's good, and if you trust in your economy, nothing should change just because people are asking to change it. And if I could be back in May, June, yes, June 2021, probably I would set Farming Tales in a different way than how it is now. And yes, it's still a good game, and Castle is still a good game, and there are lots of good game even on Wax right now. But in some way, I think we are the first generation of NFT and blockchain gamings. We all made some error during the development, during this story. And at some point, the second generation of blockchain gamings will manage to provide something better than us. I'm sure of this. And even if Farming Tales will be old at some point, I'm still happy that we provided some experience to make this world better.
It's good to be here early, though, right? Because you're going to build your brand, and and I think it's good being here early. I mean, being one of the top games, one of the most successful games on the Wax blockchain, it really gives you the opportunity to establish the your brand. Farming Tales is a brand, and then brands are everything. And this was something I think I've said in a previous podcast that I think that podcast might not be available for everybody because I think something failed with the upload. so we didn't get all the data, so we have to bring them back. But I was saying in that particular podcast, which was one thing I didn't understand about Bitcoin, was because what I said in the beginning of Bitcoin was I was like, Bitcoin's going to be worth nothing because the code is free. Like I could make a Bob coin, it would basically be the same thing as Bitcoin. I could just take the Bitcoin code, copy it exactly, make a Bob coin, and bam, there you go. It's like Bitcoin is never going to be successful because I could just do this. I can make a Bob coin, and honestly, I should have made a Bob coin, right? So we all know that. Now I know that, right? I should have just taken the Bitcoin code and made a Bob coin, and I'd probably, own Smile Island by now if I had done that when I realized that. But what I was wrong about Bitcoin was the branding, was that Bitcoin was there first. And so, and that's just made it all the difference. It was the first, it's fully decentralized, and those two things have allowed it to basically be king of, cryptocurrency. And I have a really hard time seeing it lose its crown. I think something really crazy would have to happen. Even if Satoshi sold all of his Bitcoins, I think it's it's almost I think $22 billion worth of Bitcoins people think that he has in wallets. Even if he sold it all, someone else would just buy it, and then it's then it's back in the market again. So but I didn't understand that about Bitcoin, about it being first. So I think creators like you and I can't underestimate the power of being here first. And I think I agree there are concerns we have about the economies and things that we might have done differently. But I think overall the biggest advantage you and I have is that we were here first, and that we've been able to prove to our gamers that we're committed, that our games do well. If they do well in the games, they have fun with the games. And I think, overall the, controversy over how to make the games work, I think, for people like you and I, that's the most important thing, that we show up every day and we're building the game and we're continuing to build the brand over time. And then that can go to other places in the future. What do you think? Do you see value in that more, because I can't go back in time and change anything in the economy of castles. I mean, I guess I do. We do make small updates from time to time, but day to day when I wake up, it's like that. I'm like thinking of the future and thinking of the future that our gamers gonna have.
No, I still think there's lots of value in all of this. And if you just create something, if you just create a game, and you think that this game is forever and it does not need to be updated and integrated with a new function, there's no value. And that's clear. But if you start building something and you are okay to keep the developing, to keep updating, to keep to push out new feature, yes, there is lots of value behind that. And for example, my idea behind Farming Tales is to give more and more value to the original game. So to the farms, to the players' farms, basically, where they can produce our token. And people that join us in the early stages of the game will have in the future a big advantage in the metaverse, since all the function we will push into the metaverse will be in some way funded by the token, and people able to produce this token are mainly our early adopter. So even if up to now we have a bit inflated economy, this should change, and I hope it will change with the metaverse. And something I feel it's missing in Farming Tales. Okay, we maybe are not a 2D click and learn, but the truth is that we are still a click and learn. Yes, it's 3D, but it's a click and learn. You have your hand, you click your hair. And in the 99% of the game on Wax, but even on the other blockchains right now, we are missing the real gaming experience. If we manage to add to our games the real gaming experience, that should be something very interesting from the story point of view, or something competitive, we can really use the value we have in our original projects to push the gaming experience. And that's what we are trying to do with the metaverse. We have one competitive mini games right now. We are still testing. It's not full active, but it's there. And people can challenge their friends in a tractor race. So it's a 5 people multiplayer tractor race. And they have to pay a small fee to access the race. And the winner takes it all, basically. And to access this race, the fee is paid using the token provided from the original game. So it's something funny. It's not just something useful to earn. And that's my way to give value to the original project. I'm still not sure it will work, of course, but I'm pretty confident, and it's a good way.
So you guys are building games out, and then the entry fee is going to be the Farming Tale token, and so it's kind of like getting tickets for going on a ride. Is that?
Yes, it's fully integrated into Farming Tales. So you can visit Newark Chester, that is the main town of the metaverse. And inside the metaverse, you can directly access the tractor race. But I think in few months, in few weeks, you will be able also to access the shared minigame between Farming Tales and Castle, for example.
Oh, right. Am I allowed to talk about that? Because I know it's something worked out with Josh.
Yeah.
And it's axe throwing, right? There's supposed to be axe throwing castles minigame in Farming Tales. So will that also be competitive? Will people be like competing against other axe throwers, or is it like single player?
No, should be competitive. And we are thinking about to have a different kind of competitive experience. For example, for the tractor race, you can join 4 different kind of tournaments. Fastest lap, higher points. Yeah, there are different kind of leaderboards, and you can freely decide which leaderboard to access, paying a fee. And will be the same for the castle game.
And there are prizes for winning these tournaments and winning the games?
It depends. It depends. It's
All right. Well, your eyes lit up when you started talking about the tractor race, so it looks like you're pretty excited about it.
yeah. Because in the end, it's the 4th step for Farming Tales to create something really competitive, really skill-based. It's not just I buy a chicken from the market, I start earning something. You need to be better than someone to be able to earn a token. And as we said, I think it's important for the future to bring these elements into this world.
Elements meaning like live gameplay with the token burning.
Yeah, but also skill-based dynamics, skin stuffs, loot boxes. Let's say non-inflative dynamics.
Can you say that again? No.
You're better than someone else. Otherwise, you can also lose. You are not guaranteed that you can click and earn something.
Yeah, well, I definitely see that when it comes to like the clickers that are basically like market simulators, like how many tokens do you have, when do you trade it? That is a lot of what our players talk about. It's like, oh, well, today's the market is up, so I'm, basically, buying, I'm selling assets and buying tokens, or I'm buying assets, or I'm selling assets and I'm going to wait for the market to go down, and they start to basically, play this market game, which is okay. Like, I'm actually totally okay with that, and I understand like that's how our game, a lot of people play our game. And so we've kind of, adjusted the game to kind of work inside of this market economy. But if you want people to come in to play a game to, for the thrill of like having a good skill, like being able to get a headshot on somebody, it's not quite the same kind of rush. Instead the rush is, ooh, I sold this thing, I made some profit. Like it's a different kind of rush. Or, we spent a lot of time and money building a hero customization game. So we have 3 different heroes, and you can customize them 11 different pieces of armor. And people can spend a lot of time in our hero builder just like making the right heroes that they want and planning how to build the right heroes. So we kind of added a new level of enjoyment there, but it's still very different from the skill based thing. From driving a tractor and winning in a race or getting the highest points. It is a different level of skill. But it sounds like you're really excited about continuing to add those inside of the metaverse that you guys are building. So is that what your metaverse is? It's more and more of these mini games that people can use the tokens to get into and play and compete?
Yes. We have 2 focus for the metaverse right now, and one is about mini games and competitive experience. And the other one is to try to onboard into the metaverse also real companies from the real world. You know that I'm interested in bringing real worlds into the blockchain. So, but our idea is to manage to host into the metaverse real companies or real entities that want to explore the metaverse. I'm not sure about other countries, but for example, here in Italy, there are lots of big companies, also institutional companies, that are now interested in onboarding some kind of metaverse. They don't really know what the metaverse is, but they just want to be in there as early. And we are talking with some of these companies to create their building into the metaverse, like we do with Castle, for example, and providing some function into the metaverse. Any company can decide which function to integrate there. I don't know, for example, some kind of little digital store, some kind of help desk for their users, literally anything. We are able to code any idiot ideas they have. I think it's important to bring big companies there. And we are already lucky on Wax because we have some big brand like Funko that is bringing in some way Marvel, Disney, Warner Brothers into the blockchain. And we need them. We need them into our world to grow, to generate trust in users, and will be a long way, but we have to start.
So you want to create these relations with other brands that want to be in the metaverse, not only for business purposes, but also to continue to increase the adoption here on blockchain metaverses and Wax.
Yes. As the bear market shows to all of us, is that adoption is the key for the success of our world. And there are different levels of adoption. We were on level 1 during the last bull run because, yes, we had lots of people joining, but a few of them were really interested in blockchain, in web3, in decentralization. They were mainly interested in financial services, let's say. And we need to show to people also the good sides of the blockchain, of the Web3, of the decentralization. And won't be easy for sure, won't be fast for sure. But if we want to stay in this world, it's our responsibility to do that and to create this environment.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting. I look at, us in particular. We haven't been a big part of let's say the big part of mass adoption. We've mostly been a part of people seeing that the consistency of us being here and working and building. But it is like the bigger brands like Funko, that have actually been bringing a lot of users to Wax. I'm sure Farmers World back in the day had a lot to do with it too, because it was doing so successful and people were like, oh, people are making, $100,000 a month in Farmers World, got to get into Farmers World. And then that whole thing collapsed, right? And that game's like basically dead. I don't think the developers updated, have made a announcement like in 6 months or something, but it is like, the Funkos and the partnerships that Wax and Atomic have had with the big brands that do bring in a lot of the new players. And then, or I should say new users, and then it's people who want to play games like ours that I think come to, your game, Farming Tales, Castles, who really kind of stick with it. And what I've noticed is that there are, there are people coming to the blockchain and, metaverse and Web3 games for different reasons. But what we found, especially at the very bottom of the market, we lost a lot of our players that are mostly there for the ROI. We had a lot of players who'd come in and be like, okay, are you getting me ROI today? Well, not in so many words, right? But they come in, they complain about token prices. They would throw shots at us like, why aren't you guys doing this? Why aren't you doing that? You're doing terrible things. So, people who are really judgmental of us at the very bottom of the market, most of them left. Like a lot of them left, and or we banned them because they just became too toxic, and they're just basically being rude to us way too many times. We gave some people who'd been there for a while, like we're like, okay, we'll let it go this time, but remember, treat us better than that. And then eventually we just banned them. But it was all the way at the bottom of the market is where most of them left the game. And then we were left with is actually a lot of really great players who supported us, who liked the game, who enjoyed playing the game, and some of them were even like, yeah, I mean, I've been playing this market all the way down, and I'm doing great because because they had a skill set for playing the market as the game was, as the market was doing what it was doing, and they just played it in a way that had them actually be profitable. But we found that those were the players who stayed. It was the ones who enjoyed playing the game, players who felt like that they were, making great decisions and getting ahead by playing the market as it was adjusting on the way down. But it was all the people who came here purely for the profit, who weren't getting it, who decided to leave at the very bottom of the market. So I thought that was like no coincidence at the bottom of the market. Most of them just started to leave in droves. And, I'm sure a lot of them looking back now being like, oh, like, now the prices are like double what they were before. Like maybe it wasn't a great time to be a jerk and leave the game. And, but I find that, everyone's coming here for a different reason, but we know why we're here, right? We're here to give people agency over their assets, be able to own their assets, and then do what they want with them. And at the same time, you need incentivization structures for people to play, which is why we have really started to focus on some of these new wax rewards, basically giving people guaranteed wax prizes, because I can't guarantee anybody's going to make ROI in the game, right? But what I can guarantee is I can give you, I can say if I'm going to give you a certain amount of, tokens worth like $500 in wax at the end of the month, I can do that. I can guarantee that you'll get that distributed amongst, however that is distributed to players in the game. And I think that's really going to be a future for a lot of Web3 games is basically like these guaranteed cash prizes. Because I figure, if you're making like, $8,000 a month on your game, and you can give, $500 back, 10-15% back to the players, as long as you can continue operating the game, I think that creates kind of a level of certainty for the players. But yeah, I mean, I have you guys ever thought about? Do you guys do anything like that? Like any guaranteed cash prize pool rewards or anything?
Yes, we are doing something like that with prizes for collaboration and in-game events. Basically, every time we decide to reward players or to give away something, we have a buyback from the market. And so if you are dropping as reward 10 chickens, for example, we are not minting those chickens, but we are buying back them directly from the market. And that's more than the 15% in the last month for sure. And yes, I think during the spring and summer, probably we touched a very, very bottom in our players' amount, and we decided to spend everything we were earning from the game to sustain the economy and to maintain the game. So has been a hard choice, but has been the right choice, I think. And to be honest, I'm doing this, yes, every day, but I'm not I'm not a big fan of this, because in the end, I think that a game should be able to sustain itself even without the buyback. If we are forced to do some buyback, okay, it's good for players, that's for sure. But it also means that we are missing something into the game. So the goal for the future is not to be forced to perform a buyback. But I'm still available to do it until it's necessary for the project.
Yeah, on a technical level, buybacks don't really help you find like a real price for what an asset is, right? Eventually, the player base in the game is going to tell you, what the market value is for whatever an asset is.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like just doing buybacks is kind of a delay of finding the real price. It's kind of artificially inflating it. And not only that, but you take the majority of the risk because you don't know what the actual value is. You don't care. You just have some kind of system set up for the buybacks. So it seems like
Yes.
that's a super risky way of doing things.
Yes, and about this, I also think that if you as project decide to buy back something, it's important to communicate it to your users, because if you buy back a good amount of assets, you are probably increasing their value in the market. And that's not totally fair, because you are generating some kind of not clear images for your user. So it's not that easy. It's not that easy. The same for the token. You could provide some buyback to sustain the token, but is it really correct? I don't know.
Yeah, it seems to me like the better use of the money there is to just give away like the tokens, right? Like take whatever like X amount that you think is appropriate for giving to players, then at least they have that. And that will actually help the tokens as well find a real price for the market. Because if players are like, hey, I can, earn $500, $1,000 in wax tokens at the end of the month, and then I can do this amount of effort in order to get this amount of that, well, then it's at least guaranteed. And then they start to do the math and they're like, so if I play for a year and I continue to make X amount every month, and then I will have assets that are worth this much, and if the bull market goes up, and then maybe my assets double, and they start to do all this math, right? But I think the guarantee kind of helps give some stability for people, and people throw money at mobile games for like things that they don't even own, right? Like they'll do the same kind of thing, and they'll spend like $100 on assets that are purely virtual that they don't own, they can't trade, just to be able to win in a competition and get like the best prize, get like the best armor or something. And that's what I love about what we do, is because when people get it, they actually own it, whether it's, a game asset or a token or something, it's theirs. So that's why I think, even though we're still very early and some people are kind of, little, how should I say, they're unsure. There's some uncertainty with the kinds of games that we make. I love that if you have a player who knows that we're going to be here and we're going to continue developing, we're going to take good care of the game, that then adds a whole new level of potential rewards for them playing. And I think a lot of players who came in like a game a year ago, we're expecting the game to last like a month or two, like all the other games. They're like, okay, I'm getting into this game. This game's great, guys. Like, and they're going to buy your assets, and like you're going to make us rich right in 2 months, and I'm going to leave, because that's basically the end of the lifeline of any of these games. And so it's kind of no wonder that people kept freaking out when the prices were going down. They're like, oh no, I'm already at the end of the lifetime of the game. I got in too late, and now it's dead. And but I think the things are kind of evolving for us, right? As you're here in your brand that's been established, and the longer you're here, the more people realize that you're still going to be here 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now. And if you're still giving them prizes, I think that really helps give people a certain level of certainty, and they can start to do the math and see like, oh yeah, this game's well taken care of, and if I get into this game, I probably don't have to worry about my assets crashing down to zero, or something along those lines.
Yes, I think it's the main difference between legacy games and play to earn games right now. I mean, you have any raw idea about how many real gamers and how many financial gamers you have in your game, for example?
Do I have any real idea of like how many real gamers we have for the game? I think we do. It kind of depends like on what part of the game there is, because we have different parts of the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for like our dungeons, it's actually kind of expensive resource wise to play our dungeons expansion. So So we probably have about 100 players or so playing that very like seriously and trying to win those prizes. So it's not a ton, but the amount of resources that those people consume in the game is actually quite a lot. It's pretty substantial. And so, but for the free-to-play game, I think we probably have way more. It's probably like 1,600, maybe less, like maybe like 1,000 real players who are kind of coming in and like basically like playing the free-to-play when they're available. We have some minting fees for that mode. So if you're going to open packs in order to increase your earnings, you're going to have to pay a little bit of wax. So that kind of helps us know that there's there's about 1,000 real people who are upgrading the power every day. But when it comes to like, we actually do have a lot of bots in our free-to-play mode, but they don't upgrade their earnings. So they have to create like a significant amount of bots in order to kind of, make a dent in that free-to-play economy. And so it really hasn't been a problem for us so far. We were just like, if people want to make multiple accounts, it's just that, that's all right, because we mostly reward people who are upgrading their characters, and that costs some wax. And so that works. So the numbers are actually kind of small for the most part, from what like a major business would think, from like a major mobile game. There are people who, it costs them, $500 to $1 million to operate a year. And if you're going to do that, well, then you need to have a certain position, a certain amount of revenue on that mobile game. Right. So there's a wider player base there. But again, like I said, like we're still early, but it sounds like you had more to that thought about when you're asking how many real players we have.
Yes, I think we have something like 100 people walking around in the metaverse right now, for example. And more or less, I think the 10% of all our users are really interested in gaming, and other people are here just to invest and earn something. So to make our project better and to make them more sustainable, we should focus on the gaming experience, as I said, because this world, especially during bull market, is already full of investors. But we need to bring in here also gamers, real gamers. Because in the end, as you said, gamers are interested in craft the better armor, in find the better weapon, and they will be the people maintaining the games active even during the bear market. They want to play, they want to be better than others. They don't care too much about, I do this if I can earn this from this. And no, they just want to be better. And that's the reason why they spend money on other games. So it's something that we need in the future in all our games.
Is to focus on the gameplay and the gamers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the paradigm, right? Like I like that you can own your assets, and like owning the assets is one of the most appealing function to me. Necessarily profiting from the assets, I mean, I like that too, but it's like not something we can control, right? I remember we had a lot of gamers come in and they were like, oh, well, all you guys have to do is like, make it so that you earn this much more, and then people will start to do these things. And I'm like, if we start to like tweak the economy just to make sure that people can profit from like, some other part of a game, like that's not, that's like trying to manipulate the game to get some kind of financial reward for a certain amount of people doing something, and it won't last. Eventually, things move, so eventually we have to adjust the economy again to make up for, something, or it does break it permanently. And so we always had these people coming in making all these massive requests, especially, like 6 months ago or a year ago. People were always trying to give us advice on how to make it profitable, right? But what we found is we just use, our basis of our ecosystem. We come up with simple rules for what the value of some things are, and what the value and it's partly resources, it's partly time, and then you get an output, and then and then we get our cost doublings for lands and stuff like that, and you just stick to the fundamentals, and the economy mostly has been working on based on those fundamentals. And then the playability is the playability, and we always work on making it fun, and it is a clicker, but we think there's fun to clickers too. People playing incremental games. There are these games, I forget, like Adventure Capitalist or something, where you just basically keep tapping a button to like upgrade your earnings, and it can be really addictive. You're just like upgrade, and then wait 5 minutes and upgrade again. I think that's kind of fun. So we're adding a new mode that's kind of similar to that, and then it resets monthly, but yeah, so I would love to hear more about like what inspired you to be a farmer, because it seems like something you're passionate about. You're doing this whole bio technology farming thing. So, but where did that start from? Like, did your parents own a farm, or was it something you always wanted to do? Where does that come from?
No, has been one of my professors at university, and I decided to study biology because of I was really interested in keep the planet safe from humans, basically. And one of my professors, when I was at the second year, yes, said me that, Nick, in Italy, there's no chance to work with biology. And if you want to do something good, you need to invent your own job for the future. So at some point, we figure out that that's true. And we decide to try to build our own future, our own way. And since I don't know how to explain this. In the last years, people keep talking about organic products, being back to old agricultural dynamics. But from what I studied at university, that's not the right way for the future. Because to create a better world and a sustainable world, we need to use technology into the agricultural stuffs. We need to use bioengineering technology. We need to use technology in this world. And since I love both of them, technology and farm life, we decided to try to integrate these two stuffs into our project. It's not that easy. We are hard working for that even now, but it's super interesting. And in the end, it's still my main job every day. I wake up in the morning, I take care of my animals before to switch on my PC and start doing my stuff. So everything is from there. And even the work behind Farming Tales, especially in the beginning when we start designing for the farms, for the NFTs, it's because when I was at the university, we were used to use Blender to draw proteins and DNA, RNA, and in 3D. And I learned Blend there, and I start from there. It's incredible, but yes, biology teach me to use Blender. And that's the beginning of this story.
Well, it's interesting. It seems like you're really passionate about using technology in farming. So you didn't have parents like how to farm or anything like that. The inspiration was that you were studying to become a biologist, and your professor told you that there wasn't opportunity for using biology as as a career, and that he inspired you to create your own business and create your own way to using biology in the world. And what ways do you guys use biology? I'm sorry, what ways do you guys use technology in farming right now? Is it like you guys got like a greenhouse and you got like robots or something? Like, what does it look like?
No, the main focus right now is on dogs. One of the activity of the farm of the company is dog breeding, and we are breeder of Alaskan Malamute. I don't know if
Alaskan what?
Alaskan Malamute. Wait, Georgia. Hey.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's a beautiful dog.
She is, and that's our main breed in here. But we are also trying to save another breed that's called Canadian Eskimo dog, and it's they are the dog used even now from Eskimo to pull sleds and to survive in Greenland, for example, but even in Canada. And there's a lot of genetics behind how to breed them, because we are having lots of issue because they are too related between them. So they have fertility problems. They started having health issues. And we, working with the university, are using all the genetics knowledge we have right now to try to save them. They are really in danger now because of humans, of course. And we are also using technology in hens, in chickens, to try to stop using antibiotics and general drugs to keep them healthy, because people are scared to use to buy, for example, eggs or meat if animals use antibodies. But that's not the main problem in farms right now. If we keep using antibodies and drugs, they become day by day less efficient, and farmers around the world are struggling for different pathologies coming from different parasites, for example. And we are trying to use different techniques to stop using these drugs and using different breeding methods, different system to avoid this problem. It's something that should be done by institutional entities, but the truth right now is that no one cares about that. And the best way right now to do that is to work closely with the university. They are really, really, really interested in this, and young people interested in this should really try to cooperate with university. at least here in Italy. Will be a long way for sure, and probably when I will be older, this way will be still in progress. But if we want to have a good world for the future, it's important to keep this way.
So the dogs and the chickens, are you guys like testing their DNA to see,
Yes.
like what is the closest that you have to purebred, and then having those animals mate so that they are able to create another purebred version of that animal, or is that how that's working?
Yes. It's not about poor breed, but because especially in the last 10, 15 years, we created to purebreds lots of problem. Keeping breeding siblings or even sons with parents. So we are trying to bring into these breeds, and it's true for dogs, but also for hens. We are trying to bring old genes into the new bloodline. For example, from dog from Greenland, or for hens, we we are trying to use the bloodline coming from an old invasion in Italy. These soldiers brings in Italy some chickens and some hens from their country. They were from France, and we are trying to recover this old breed to be mixed with new breeds to create something able to produce a good amount of eggs, but also to be safe, to be resilient with parasites. And it's something we have almost completely lost in the new breed, in the new species.
Well, that sounds like it's a good way to position yourself in a market for, healthy animals, healthy chickens. Yeah. In a world where you said the institutions are really not focused on, preserving that. They're, if you're just selling mass amounts of eggs and no one's checking to figure out the health of that egg, well, then you don't really care, because that doesn't impact your bottom line, right? I've always had this belief that probably agriculture and, food production is going to be one of the most disruptive, or I should say necessary, businesses over the next 50 years, because, the climate on the planet is adjusting, and I imagine it's not going to be really easy for us to kind of change the process, right? And I remember I was listening to a very smart guy named Palmer Luckey, who created the Oculus headset. Now he's got a defense company, and but he was like, oh yeah, like climate change is easy. Well, we can fix that really easy. And I'm just like how? You put a bunch of refrigerators in like the poles of the world, and like how much energy does it cost to basically to refreeze something to the point where you need it to be? I'm like, you're going to create a lot of carbon just trying to freeze the poles. So I don't understand how it's supposed to be an easy thing to fix. And I imagine it's going to have an impact on there's going to be
No, I'm not as negative. I think we can still do something for the planet, but we cannot change the trend, at least not for the next 50 years, probably. So we need to find a way to face all these changes, and to maybe not to survive is it's a bit drastic, but at least to help our animals. I feel like we have some responsibilities towards them, and we need to help them. We are also working with bees, for example, and we have these bees into Farming Tales, and that's another huge problem, and probably without a good solution, because even here in Europe, but also in US and North America, in the last year we imported some bees from Asia, and bees from Asia have a strong parasite, different from parasites in Europe and North America, and bees of Europe and bees of North America are not able to face and to fight this parasite. So it's called Varroa, and he's literally killing all our bees. And we have some kind of defense, but seems not good for now. And there's probably no solution for this, at least not now. So will be a fight in the next 10, 20 years.
I find that really interesting. I saw a Netflix show that was all about bioengineering, and there's this whole segment that's all about what is the impact of creating an animal. What was it? It was like they wanted to create a bird, I think, to basically kill rodents in Australia, but they were going to have to genetically, augment one to create one basically to do that. And they voted against it, but it was a really interesting argument about whether or not I feel like that's maybe a little too far down the rabbit hole and not, not on topic of farming tales. I'm sure we could talk about this in a whole other separate podcast about, about technology and farming and necessitations. But I think it's an amazing, you're at the forefront of two, I think, very important things. Web3, basically creating a digital, digital frontier where people can now produce value and cooperate with value digitally, inside of games, but also inside of farming. Those are, biotechnology and farming are two pretty big things that I think are massive in the coming years for humanity and the way that we're adjusting to things. I know the food prices here in America are up. They're very high. They're almost like 30-40% on some things, maybe 50% more than they were like a year ago. And we have one of the biggest agricultural exports in the world. So,
yep.
So on a on a foundational level, we actually are pretty good in terms of food, but there's places like Sri Lanka is in the middle of a food crisis, and it didn't seem like they were expecting to be in a food crisis, but they are suddenly, the people can't afford to buy food. And so I think, continuing to, produce food, for the people in the world. And I think there are way more people either starving or food insecure in the world than I think a lot of first world country people are probably willing to admit. It's I think it's always been a massive problem. But technology in the first place has made it easier to get food, but it still seems like we're at a place where we're still not producing enough globally to make sure that, enough people are food secure. So I appreciate you, doing that work to make sure that the rug doesn't get pulled out from all of us, and suddenly, not only can we not afford our rents, but we can't buy food or something like that, because that would be, really, the really worst version of the dystopia in the future, right? Climate failing, everybody's starving, and I think, when we talk about climate change, I'm really talking about, like, a lot of the times it's food scarcity that I'm mostly worried about there. I really appreciated going down that, that rabbit hole with you on that. So what was it like for, when you guys came and you were building the game? It seems like, so you don't have any previous experience as a game developer? This was like your first game?
No, it's the first game for me, but we have also real game developers in the team. We have one lead Unity dev and another guy focuses on the blockchain. And when we decide to build the game, we also decide to build a big team for the game, because we were not able to do everything on our hands. And we are now like 15 people, plus some external collaborator. And even if it's not stated anywhere, but we are also collaborating with a guy for 3D modeling, and he's from games like Call of Duty and other big games. Our main character into the game is made by this guy.
The model of it, you mean?
Yeah, model and animations.
Okay, cool. And so this being your first game, I mean, how was it when you guys released in 2021 and the game was doing very well? So what did that feel like to see the game being, so well received?
I have to be honest, and when we start, we were not thinking about something as big. We initially start from something like 2.5D, not a real 3D, but moving on with the development, we decided to switch on full 3D, and more than 1 year ago, in December 21, December 21, we started working on Newark Chester, that's the town of the metaverse, and the last month, in December, when we took a look on the finished town, it was bigger and bigger than what we were expecting. And we are really satisfied about that. We have implemented lots of stuff that we never took that will be there. And it's cool. We're really satisfied.
Nice. What's it like to be a game developer? How's it feel?
It depends. It feels good when you manage to release something and people are happy, but it also sucks when you fail, when you do not manage to release good updates, and when people are not happy, especially in this world, because you have not just unhappy people, but if they are unhappy, it's probably because they're also losing money. And it's not good in that moment. But I think it's also part of our job, so we need to face it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's challenging to be in this space and making these NFT games because I mean every industry has different challenges, right? If you're making a single player game that is not web3, you just have to make enough sales in order to, pay for development, and then you have to make a choice. Like, do you make a sequel? Do you release DLCs? Like, how do you make sure that you can still get to, have income every month? And if you have a large team, you have to, account for that. And I think we're probably, as long as you're willing to deal with the hard things in Web3 gaming, a lot of it's like, building community, the challenges of marketing. If you're willing to deal with a lot of these, and uncertainty too, there's a lot of uncertainty, particularly in our industry. And if you're willing to deal with those things, well, then we're still here early. And that's the one thing I always stick with the most. It's like, I'm still here really super early. And what I learned about Bitcoin, I learned that, being here early and branding matters, so I always just go back to that. I'm just like, just stay the course on those two things and continue building. If you, basically, I think we're doing better than 99.9% of the other, games out there. They're either not well thought out, and I think, people like you and I, we kind of have to acknowledge the, unique skill sets that makes us able to do these things, because not necessarily everybody has them, and I can tell because I can see all these other games failing, all these other projects failing, and they're not able to get lift off. Maybe the timing was bad, but I think most of the time the team just didn't have the grit or the skills in order to continue the game on. So when you do have those things, I think it's something to acknowledge yourself for and encourage you to keep building and keep making things work, identify what's working, what's not working, and overcoming those challenges. And I think that's really the fuel that makes these projects work. It's not like, oh, I came up with an idea, it was great, we made lots of money, game over. It's like, it's more like, you had a baby Now you got to take care of it. You got to feed it. You got to wake up in the middle of the night to make sure that it's, that it's okay. And then one day it's going to be a teenager and it's going to argue with you. And it's going to be off to college and it's going to be asking for money. And like you got, it's this whole thing, right? It's like really having, I think another thing we don't acknowledge is what these games are. They're live games, which are different from, not live games. Not live games, you just made it, it goes live, people play it, and then it's done. But with a live game, we're constantly here, we're in the Discord, we're talking to the community. It's always online, it's always live being played. And really what you're building in so many words is a massively multiplayer game, right?
Sure. And even if it's not easy in this moment, for example, I think that moments like this, like the VR market, are really a good occasion for good projects like Farming Tales, like Castle, like other projects on Wax. And if we manage to survive this beer market, we are going to have a huge advantage at the next cycle. And it's also a good sign for people that we did not run away during difficult times, but we are still here for them. And if we do good during the beer market, we can do better and better and better during another bull market.
Yeah, 100%. Well, it seems like you're doing all right. We've had some challenging times. We're committed. I just remember when we were looking for investments and things, they'd always have this little thing that's like, what happens if you fail? And I'm always like, I'm not going to fail. Like, that's the rule. And it's been challenging sometimes. But I think it's, a mindset more than anything, making it work and adapting because, technology, the way technology is, you have to adapt to how the technology is evolving and how the customers are evolving, and make sure that you're providing value. Because the market, the way I always look at it is the market will tell you whether or not what you're doing is actually working. Because the market's the gauge. It's, customers will give you money if they like what you're doing and they think what you're doing has value. And if you're not able to make that work, well, then you have to adjust and see what is sustainable. So I guess we're going to come into a close here. I feel like there's still like one or two questions. I'm interested in, we're in this really weird segment of time right now. You being someone who's into technology and biotechnology, you probably know more than other people how artificial intelligence and the web3 technology, like how this is actually fundamentally shifting. I kind of consider it like a new industrial revolution, but it's technology based and it's based with AI, where, before it was like, oh, well, half my family worked on a farm, but now now they're working in marketing agencies in New York because there's not as much farm work, but they need marketers. And that used to be like, during the 1920s and 30s and 40s, and they had this kind of transition because of the Industrial Revolution was kind of heading into this new era of most of things being manufactured, and technology making it easier to mass produce things. And I feel like we're kind of in this new segment where I just saw an article today that just listed like 23 different AI technologies. And I was just looking through all of it. And these were like all real products. Like you can go and use them right now. And they did different things from like removing pauses and ums from a podcast to to creating stock images that you can, like new stock images that you can legally use, which I've been wondering about. I'm like, if someone sells me a stock image, I'm pretty sure I can go ahead and use that stock image that's artificially generated by artificial intelligence. And they take the risk because they sold it to me as something I could use for stock image, right? So I'm like, that's great if they're willing to take that risk, even though I know there's this big thing about whether or not it's legal, because a lot of them trained a lot of the stock image things on things like Shutterstock, and things are actually pre-existing and already have rights to them. But all I see all day, it feels like whenever I look at these AI channels, is someone trying to sell me a product to basically create a YouTube channel where I don't really have to do any work. I basically I make a chat GPT to write me a script, and then I hire a virtual. I basically plug it into like a virtual person talking, and I plug that into a virtual thing that's basically cutting videos together, and bam, suddenly you basically have like this whole machine that basically just creates YouTube content for you automatically. And it's just crazy kind of this era that we're getting into, and it's going to impact, biotechnology, it's going to impact games, it's going to impact so many industries. I think copywriting, like basically, as an author, you have to send something to a copyright editor to spend a month or something checking your work. And I feel like that's going to go away like in 2 or 3 years. It can be fully automated by AI. And the only people who can be copy editing are people who do it creatively, but not technically on where do you put the comma? The AI will do that for you. So I feel like this makes what we do really important. The web3 metaverse gaming. So I feel it's like a whole way to add value virtually to like entertaining yourself, to having assets, trading them. What do you think? Is that why you got in this space, or did you get this space for a different reason?
Unpopular opinion probably, but I'm not that positive about AI, for example, and stuff like ChatGPT. And not because they are bad. I absolutely don't think they're bad. I absolutely think they will be useful in future, and they can help humanity in thousands of ways. But in the end, at least for now, each technological solution, AI, but also other kind of technological solution, are always coded and regulated by people. And if an AI, for example, is able to write some string of code for me, that's because some people behind has been able to code that AI. And if I can choose, I would like to have in my team that people instead of the AI. And I think that's true for all kind of technology we have available right now. Yes, of course, there are type of technology that are essential, that cannot be switched with humans. But I really think that we need to be as more integrated as possible with technology. It's not technology over humans or humans over technology. And that's true, as you said, especially in our worlds. I cannot think to have, for example, a metaverse fully regulated by an AI. We need to have humans. AI could help, but the focus have to remain on humans and not on technology, not on AI.
But is that like on a philosophical level or like a technical level? Is it like philosophically you want to see a balance between human and AI? It sounds like what you're saying.
Yes. Human and let's say technology more than AI, because as said, I'm not that positive about AI. If AI is able to do something, it's because we have been able to do that. Exactly that thing.
Are you saying it's because we created it that it could create something, or are you saying it's because we told it to create something, that we basically were like the manager that said to AI, hey, AI, do this the way I want. So it's kind of basically like having a boss tell the employee to do something. So.
Yes. Because of this. And I know it's not that easy, but for example, people in the past year, when we had metrics on the market, lots of people start talking about self-determining AI, but from a technical point of view, it's not possible, because in the end, any instruction for the AI is provided by a human, and it's not possible that, for example, at some point AI start to take decision. Yes, they can, but based on human instruction. So I don't know. In the end, I'm not that enthusiastic about that. I think it's just something useful, something comfortable, but nothing revolutionary.
Nothing revolutionary, not on the level that I was describing it.
No.
Okay, I think you're wrong. I think you're totally wrong, actually. It's because I listened to a lot of these guys who built, actually just listening to a podcast with Sam Altman the other day. He's the CEO of OpenAI, and Microsoft has invested a lot of money in them, and they're one of the biggest AI companies out there. And I think he said that he was expecting artificial and general intelligence to be in like 5 or 10 years. And the definition of artificial intelligence being basically something that is kind of, basically you could ask it generally to think or do many things and it would. So kind of like, Jarvis from Iron Man. You'd be like, Jarvis, like, make sure that my Tesla is fueled, with energy for my date tonight, and, order me a pizza and, hold the mayo, and send a text to my mom telling her that I love her. You can just tell it to do all these things. It would understand all of those things and do them.
But I swear, as man of science, I will be very, very happy to be wrong on this. And I'm also considering to be wrong. It's something I'm totally good with that, and I'm just used to be skeptical on not on everything. That's not true, but when there's too much hype around something, I'm used to be skeptical, and I hope to be wrong on this because, of course, would be great to have something revolutionary. So it's okay for me.
Just a question: do you consider yourself more to be a scientist or like an engineer, like a
scientist?
Scientist? Okay, yeah. Well, it is the nature of scientists to be skeptical, right?
Yeah.
Be questioning everything, including the results. And I hate it in TV where there's always some person who does science, and then it's like, oh, it is a fact because it's science. And I'm like, that is not what science is. The screenwriter did not understand what science is, or they just thought their scientist was really ignorant. But that science is being skeptical and basically collecting evidence to prove or necessarily look at the evidence for a thesis and whether or not how much evidence. What is I know I'm getting all messed up now, right? But it's all about the evidence collecting to see if you can prove a thesis, and a thesis is only proven until it's disproven, right? And even then, I'm not even sure we can prove a thesis. It's just it is. It's like you got all this evidence. This was a thesis. This is all the evidence that supports the thesis, and that is science. It's like we think there are atoms because all the scientific evidence has given us the evidence that there are atoms, and we've given it this name. But is that really what it is? How it works? I don't know. You give us another 10 years, maybe we'll be like, actually, no, atoms are not what we thought they are. There's something different. And, it's like it's new evidence for something. It's kind of the way it is. But yeah, I'm constantly trying to figure out where this whole AI thing is going, because it's really important for me, and actually particularly in your industry, like agriculture, food production, farming, because I feel like in the next, especially 20, 50 years, as time goes on, I think we're going to need those technologies more to handle, because we don't, people don't want to be out there picking berries, for, in California, we always see people who are probably I think, immigrants, illegal immigrants were out there picking berries, and no one wants to say anything because it keeps the berries cheap, right? Like, people want to keep the strawberries cheap, and so the government wanted to come down and be like, oh, you got all these, illegal immigrants picking berries. Don't do that. They're like, yeah, but we pay them $1 an hour. They're like, oh, and they're like, that keeps the food costs down, and people like cheap food, so people like getting voted into office because food's affordable, which so. But if we're going to have robots do those things, and then we could then have technology provide better value jobs for people who are immigrants, or people who are citizens. I think that's the way we should always be progressing. It seems kind of challenging, but I would see AI providing, robotics providing a lot of value inside of agriculture. I mean, what do you think? Are you open to it, or you just kind of got a system that you're already planning to and you just want to work on that? Or
yeah, that's one of the good application that this could have in future from my point of view. To be honest, agricultural application could be in the future one of the most interesting field for technology, for AI. But for example, but it's just me, it's just my opinion, I do not trust, I still do not trust this for surgery, for example, because I think the human factor is still super important in some fields, and I'm not ready as Nick. So Nick, he's not ready to renounce to the human factor in some fields of the human being in some way. So
it's because you only trust a human to do a surgery on you, like.
Yes, it's not just about trust. It's more philosophical than that. In science, we have the serendipity. I cannot pronounce it in English. Serendipity. And in the story of human being, lots of important steps have been done in a totally random way. So when we discover penicillina, for example,
can you say that again?
The first antibodies we discover, in Italian is penicillina.
Oh, penicillin is how we pronounce it here. Yeah,
has been a random discover, and that's something highly related to human. So I don't know. I still love that part.
I think you're onto something there that I think like AI would have a hard time with something like discovery, but I know that they're already doing like fully AI surgeries already. I actually had a friend of mine almost like 8 years ago. His job was actually creating a robot that could do a basic brain surgery, neurosurgery, and so he was just creating robots basically just do that, like cut the skull open, do the things, and put it back. And that was almost like 8 years ago. He said it was working, and I'm sure now like things are even more evolved. It's been a while since I talked to him, but I think I just heard the other day, like, yeah, there's like they're doing this. Like, this is the kind of the scary thing why I kind of bring it up, because sometimes I just start Googling like what AI is doing, and I'm just like, I can't even keep up with all the things that they're getting AI to do, and it just freaks me out because I'm like, I'm writing a whole book about like kind of this thing that was happening fictionally, but I think agriculture. Go check out the latest Boston Dynamics robot video. They just released a new one. Have you seen it?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, he grabs the 2x4 and he like jumps around. I'm sure you could employ a bunch of those to like automatically, just like, oh yeah, go breed dog, 24B with 24C, and leave them in there leave them in the pen for like, 4 weeks. and then give me an update on whether or not she's pregnant, and then just automate it, right? And then go back to developing farming tales. But I mean, like with the combination of the AI and robotics, like you could do so much on a farm where you don't even have to, do a whole lot anymore. You just basically wake up, you talk into, your phone or I don't know, Dick Tracy watch, whatever, just like, and then you do whatever you want to do at your
No, I'm not still ready for that. I'm often blamed by my partner, Bruce the Goose, because I can show you this. I'm still using this paper agenda for
you write down your agenda. Wow.
Everything, yes. So I don't feel 100% comfortable with all the technologies. I still prefer old stuffs for not for all, but for some of my daily stuffs. And as I said, is my opinion. As Nick, if I should be under surgery, I would feel more comfortable having a person, and not an AI on me.
Mm-hmm. But what if I could show you statistics and be like, the AI is actually 99% better at doing the surgery than a human being, and the human being actually has a much larger margin of error. Would you then want to use the AI to do surgery?
I will trust your data 100%, but it's something I cannot find the word. But even if I trust your data, and I will trust them, once I will be on the surgery bed, I still would be more comfortable having a person. It's not something rational, I know, but that's it.
There's irrational desire to have a human being do it. I get it. No, it's we fear things that are not, that are not us, right? That's kind of the basic human condition. Not part of the tribe, not like you. You don't want it, kill it, get rid of it, whatever. Don't trust it. That's very, very, very human. But I think we're going to see a lot of that in the future. I think there's going to be plenty of times where, people won't trust AI to do things. Even right now, people don't necessarily trust, Tesla to drive cars, but the numbers show that it's actually safer to let the AI drive the car in most places.
It's not for me.
But exactly, yeah, there are people who are just like, no. I mean, I have a self-driving car. I actually do enjoy driving myself. It's it gives me a feeling of agency. But I mean, in the future, I don't know. I might get busier, need to do more work, and I might probably have a car do it. So let us know, what's the next big drop for like Farming Tales? What should people be looking forward to?
No, we are not planning to have more drops for Farming Tales, since, as we said before, I want to put in place everything to avoid to be inflative again. So we are not planning to have big drops. Probably once the metaverse will be fully ready, we will have some drop for skins, for tractor parts, for better targets for the axe game, but there will be small drops for limited stuffs and just for fun. We want Farming Tales being sustainable and healthy, even without other big sales.
All right, cool. Yeah, I get it. And what about the next big event? Is it going to be like farmer tractor races?
Yeah, we should more or less do not take this as a fact, but in a couple of weeks we should be ready with the tournament system for the tractor race. And if it works, and I think it will work, we will start to push out new mini games in the next weeks, months. So tournaments will be the main release expected for the next month, let's say March, February, March.
Nice, nice. Looking forward to it, and looking forward to the Castles collab. I'm just thinking we need to do something in our game for you guys as well, but we'll get that figured out. I should just tell you now that we're actually about to announce a what I call a 3-tool game that is not Castles based. So it's called Farmer Pets. So we were like, we love these. I like the idea of a 3-tool game if it's done well, and I've seen many of these be made and by other collections where basically you have like 3 tools and the game revolves around these 3 resources. And I was like, I could do that really well. And so we've created a game and a system for that. And so not to step on your guys' toes, it's a very different kind of farmer game. It's not 3D World. It's it's more of a clicker again. That's kind of very similar to Castles in some way. But we just thought we could create like a kind of small, good, strong ecosystem inside of the game along with some wax rewards. So hopefully you guys won't feel we're stepping on your toes when we start to announce and release the Farmer Pets game. No hard feelings between farmers, I guess.
Yeah, it's I don't know how you think to implement these into your games, but one of the main topic for the future, not only about Farming Tales, but about all the games, all the good games in our environment, will be cross function, and in the end, it's probably the real purpose of a metaverse. And we are all building our own metaverse, but we are also in this moment a huge metaverse, a huge shared metaverse, and having cross function will be cool.
You say not just cross function in the game, but cross function between games.
Yes, I think in game it's the first step, and if we all manage to create also between games, will be a next important step.
All right. Yeah, I think it's for some games, not for some other games, but I do like that. I know people ask me this all the time. They're like, "Oh, what do you think like constitutes a metaverse? What is in the metaverse, what isn't?" And I'm like, if you're on the blockchain, you're already in the metaverse, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Because
if
people
you
own those assets.
If you are on internet, you are already in a metaverse. And blockchain is another metaverse, wax is another metaverse, and it's just small metaverse inside bigger metaverse.
Yeah, but with blockchain assets, if it's on a blockchain, you own it. So I could go to a bridge and trade Ethereum asset for a wax asset and then take one item from one game to another. Like as long as, those, you can transfer assets from one place to another. You just have this massive metaverse where, all these bits, all these, ones and zeros, bits and bytes can be transferred from one chain to another. I think it's really awesome. So lastly, let us know, where can people, follow you, what, the Farming Tales website, your Twitter, give us the rundown of all the places that they can find you and talk to you and interact with you.
And we are super active in Discord and on Twitter, and people can find us there. But we are not super social people right now. We have lots of work to do, and one of my main regret is not to being so active with the community in the last month. But it's probably the devs work. So if they want to join us, if they want to contact us, please get in touch with us on Discord, on Twitter, but keep in mind that we are slow. And even if
what's your and the website is farmingtales.
Yes, farmingtales.io, and you can get the access from Discord and Twitter right from the site. And
you don't know your Twitter handle?
Yeah,
at farmingtales or
with capital F and capital.
I don't think it counts capitals. I don't think you need to put in the capitals.
No, okay, nice, but it's farming. I don't know. It's fake.
Okay, go to farmingtales.io and all the social links are
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Visit the
They
site.
told me you were the marketer. They were the person to talk to for
Oh.
no, but this has been a great conversation.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So appreciate you guys being another collection working on the Wax blockchain with us and being committed to your players, and super fascinated by your outlook on biotechnology and farming, and you're really on the front line of developing technologies, and we need both of these things. So appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And it's been a
All right.
pleasure to
Well,
keep in touch with other good projects. We really need lots of projects like Castle, like Farming Tales for the future of Fox.